There's never been a faster or easier way to start your weight loss journey than with PlushCare. PlushCare accepts most insurance plans and gives you online access to board-certified physicians who can prescribe FDA-approved weight loss medications like Wegovy and Zepbound for those who qualify. Take charge of your health and speak with a board-certified physician about a weight loss plan that's right for you. Get started today at plushcare.com/weight loss. That's plushcare.com/weight loss. plushcare.com/weight loss.
Hello, Paul.
How you doing, Jim? You okay?
Not too bad, mate. Yeah, good.
Good. And welcome all to a catch up with Coburn, or as I call you, King Jimmy. We've had King James. We had one. We had two. I don't know if we got to three. So you're either King James III or King Jimmy. But I think King Jimmy is more punchy. A little bit like your new track, She's My Rock and Roll World. What a punchy tune. But first, let's have a bit of the backstory, Jim. I'm looking at it started. There's Butlins, Wes, and JCB starter buttons, but we're going to leave that. We're going to move on from that. Move on from the Blue Meanies. What an artist, and what a back catalogue you've got, mate. To be truthful, you're an absolute superstar.
Oh, nice one, Gabbie, and it's great to hear from you again. And it's good to be back recording again, especially in times like this. You know, to give me a chance to sit down and think. And I've actually even changed some of the songs that I was going to put on to this record. Due to having this pandemic and stuff to rethink things over. So it's turning out good for the songwriting.
Now, that's your second album. We're going to be talking firstly about your first album, because as I say, you had that where you went up and you done an Oasis track, didn't you? And then you've done other things. You were in a band. You've branched out on your own. And I remember a few years ago, somebody sent me a track of yours, Gotta Go Home, and outside my window, and I thought, that ain't an original. That's from the Beatles, that is. It's got to be. Especially Gotta Go Home. And I had a look at it, and there was nothing from the Beatles. And that is my favourite double A side, and I think the greatest double A side since the Jam brought out Going Underground and Dreams of Children.
Yeah, mate. Well, that's a big honour. If you think that, I know how much you're into the Jam, Paul. You know what I mean, and stuff. So that's a great compliment. So thanks very much for that.
And the whole album, I've listened to it a couple of times again today. I honestly think it's the greatest debut album that I've ever listened to. As we've said, there was that double A. One of the things, I think that is an absolute catchy tune. Look on My Side, I Find My Way Home Over the Water. Dream Forever, Gotta Go Home, I'm Moving On, Second to No One, The Fear, Goodbye, and Waterloo Key. That is an absolute monster mix of gems. And pretty much the running thread there is Liverpool. And I remember when I was a kid, and you're looking at Cilla Black when she was coming out, she had her own show, and there's always the tally and the tie up with the Beatles and Liverpool and football. And Liverpool now are going to win the Premier League, first time they've won the top flight for ages. You should be in the same vein as what those guys were before you, because you are the best musical artist, in my opinion, that's come out of Liverpool since the Beatles, mate.
Well, that, like I say, Paul, thanks again. That's amazing you think that. And I also do is I just think I try and get a different song every time when I record, and try and take a different angle with it. And Waterloo Key, my idea with that was trying to get a different variety of songs, do you know what I mean? Which there was plenty of choice, and get a good ingredients into it, you know what I mean? So that turned out great for me. I'm always going to be proud of that, because it's obviously my debut album solo, and big thanks to Rick, who plays on guitar for me and stuff, and he produces it. Without him, I couldn't get it sounding like that. He's the best musician I've met, he's fantastic.
And that's Rick. Let's have his surname, and let's have a shout Rick. Out to the Den, because the best kind of recording studios are pretty much just like dens, aren't they? The way that they used to do it back in the old day. None of all this, money that's spent and lashed on all these different fancy newfangled equipment. Getting that guitar, getting the drums, getting in there and just pretty much jam it and having it.
Yeah, that's it, and that's where Rick Wilson comes in.
Yeah.
I mean, he's all the people I've met in my life. If someone was to say to me like he was the best musician it'd be in, because hands down, he's an engineer, he's a guitarist, he's a great drummer. He played bass, he can do everything, but he's got a great ear for sound. You know what I mean? And he's got a real good attitude towards it, and everything he does, he likes to be a perfectionist. You know what I mean? And it's good, so it pushes the record to sound the way it sounds. And then he's just got great ears, great friend and everything. You know, he's special.
And that's what you need, Jimmy, isn't it? You need someone with good ears, and somebody like, you write the songs, you send it over and produce it, and then sometimes you add something, take it away. It's almost like cooking a chili, in it. You put all the ingredients in, you take some out, but the taste is just as sweet. And as I say, that debut album, I've said to you before, you could have took 3 of your tracks, put it on 3 different albums, put some fillers, and you could have had your first 3 albums, but you didn't. You put them all in. You put all the eggs into that basket, and there's not a weak song on that. How long did it take you to write that first album?
Well, to be honest with you, I actually called the album Waterloo Key for the reason that I wrote these songs dead fast. I think I wrote the whole album within 2 months.
Yeah.
And because the speed of it, and because I was sort of going to bed and thinking of songs before I go to sleep, then I'd be dreaming about them and waking up.
Yeah.
And all these songs, it's like as if they were just writing themselves.
Yeah.
So that's why I named it after the place where I live.
Outside my window, I just love the line, I just live for the things I believe in, and that gets me high. I mean, that is one of the iconic lyric lines ever from any song.
Yeah, well, when I wrote that, I remember writing that line actually, Paul, and I remember writing and thinking that's a good one. You've got that there, and if I can do that in as many songs as I can, it makes me proud, because there's another one in Look on My Side that I said, I feel like I'm high on a trip of a life. You know, you can only live twice. You can never live twice, and just little things like that. I feel good when I get them in, because it's not about just putting the music together. It's actually getting some words that make real sense, you know what I mean, or I've got a bit of emotion attached to them.
And also a social message as well, because I think that's really important, because people then can connect. I mean, dream forever. I mean, that's what we're all dreamers, and we want to live forever, dream forever. It's just, it's just a song that you put in, and it's almost like running through the countryside, and all the things that you used to be and you still want to be. Just another tremendous side, and one of the things, another track that is a proper dancey tune. That is, it's so catchy.
Yeah, I think with one that I know when I put that one together, it's sort of like an upbeat, catchy summer song.
Yeah,
and it was like really happy and uplifting. I thought that's the way I want the album to sound mainly. Obviously, I didn't want to make every song like super happy or whatever. You've got to have your little
of course you have.
moments in it just to give it a bit of a balance. You know what I mean? But the general idea of that album is to be really positive, and I like uplifting music.
I totally agree. I like the down music as well, and the up music, because again, left side, right side, you need balance. You can't have everything happy, you can't have everything sad. And I think that you got the right mix, the right balance, the lyrics, just everything on that album. 100% absolutely perfect. Nailed it. You're selling it on your website, all the W's, jimmycoburn.co.uk. Your new record, She's My Rock and Roll World, another punchy, catchy track. Who's the chick on the wall? Who's the drawings?
Well, that's actually a mural in Liverpool. It's like artwork by the Baltic Triangle up that way.
Yeah.
And there's some fantastic paintings on the walls by various artists, and just had a little look at that and thought that looks good, to make the video too. And it was a nice sunny day, so we just headed up there and filmed it, and I think it turned out okay.
Do you know who that lady is? Is she a model? Is there any, reference to her in the track, or do you just look at it and think, well, have it there? That's all right. Nice day.
Just a face in the background, to be honest. I don't know who the person is.
Yeah.
But it just looked good because of the title of the song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was just good to take the obviously with the cameras on me, it's nice to have distractions with all this nice artwork around, you know what I mean? I thought break it up a little bit.
Well, it absolutely worked. It was superb. It's out now, isn't it, Jimmy? People can go on a Spotify, go onto all the usual outlets and
Yeah.
download it.
Yeah, it's on iTunes, Amazon and Spotify, all that stuff. So yeah, it's ready to download now, Paul.
And your second album, because you've got a number of tracks for that second album, how's that going to differ from Waterloo Key, if it's going to differ at all? What direction of travel are you taking with this one, young man?
It's pretty much a continuation from the first record, I'd say.
Yeah.
With a couple of subtle differences, just to knock it on a bit from the last one, to give it a bit of a change, a bit of a nudge.
Yeah.
There's some like different kinds of sound and records on it. Like She's My Rock and Roll World. We got a nice sound at the beginning with the riff. So we're trying to introduce a couple of new little sounds to this record, but also keep it in with the integrity of the first record. You know what I mean? Keep it sort of like side A and side B sort of thing.
What else have you got that's going to be released after this? Because what you have to do as an unsigned and a new artist, Jim, you have to keep banging and knocking the door down, because it's not a level playing field. It's so difficult to get your records played on what I would say mainstream radio stations, because they have a controlled playlist, and all the DJs, well, button monkeys, let's be honest, they're not DJs these days, they're just button monkeys. They do as they're told, and they're told to play certain tracks, and that must be very frustrating, because like I said at the top of the catch up with Coburn today, you're as good as any musician that I've ever heard. Your songs are as strong as anything. I, for the life of me, can't understand why I don't turn on radio stations, not that I do, because it's all dirge these days, but listen to your songs, because when I do turn on the radio these days, I'm listening to artists that sound like Pinky and Perky. They seem as though they've had a party on earlier. It's incredible, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, it's all commercial music now, isn't it, sort of thing? It's over commercial, and a lot of like solo artists, and I think the band scene needs to come back, if I'm honest, Paul. We need to be seeing guitar bands and a bit of a rise of that again. I think the world needs a bit of rock and roll, you know what I mean? We can't let it die out. Can't let it change and go into some like kind of new fad. Guitar bands will always be the best music to me. It always has been.
Yeah, I think, I think there's, and I've always said this, I think there's a place for all genres of music. Yeah. I think that, if you're serving up a Sunday dinner, if you're just giving a plate of potatoes, you're going to get a bit fed up of that. And I just think that's what the radio output is like. There's not a good selection of different types of music, and I just think that that's so important and so vital. And if you haven't got that ladder or them stepping stones, how do young artists cut a career in the industry that they should be cutting a career? And you shouldn't be just selling hundreds of records or then having a rerun. You should be selling millions and millions of records, because they're that good. And I'm sure I look at and I listen to artists, and you're one that I listen to, and I think with the 6 billion people on this planet, surely there must be a few million that have similar eardrums and tastes to me, but they just don't seem to get the access to that record, and that's fundamentally, in my opinion, the problem. It's controlled still by Bauer, Global, and the BBC, and it's absolutely wrong, and it needs to be smashed.
Yeah, I think the mold needs to be broken, to be honest. I mean, who needs to listen to the same old thing that we've been listening to for so long now? Isn't it time to doesn't everything come back round again, as they say? And I think it's time that we need bands back, proper bands and proper music. And I know loads of great bands out there myself, great live entertainers and people who can sing, and no one will ever know, you know what I mean? It's just the way the music industry's gone, which is pretty sad, really,
It's almost like, football, we've got the restart, the football, and they're playing to empty stadiums. But the thing is, they might be playing to empty stadiums, but they've got the TV, so it's beamed around the world. The difference between football and rock and roll and the bands, the way I see it, is you're playing to empty rooms, And there's not the amount of people that have the access to listen and watch you guys ply your trade, because you are some of the greatest entertainers that I've heard and seen. And I think it's almost like a crime against humanity. It's certainly a crime against music that more people can't hear you guys. I think it's absolutely, I think it's pathetic.
Outside my window, I've got to step outside for sure. And if there's only half a reason, that's what I came here for. And there's a whole lot of work I'm missing. I'm gonna step outside my mind until I reach out and find the things I thought I'd left behind. Don't you know, this thing that you feel inside, the rain will pass and the sun will shine. And if so, just take your head for a ride. 'Cause I'm tired of outdated morals, I'm just tired of outdated meanings. I just live for the things I believe in, and that gets me high. Well, then you know I'll find that feeling, the way I look in your eyes and it's done. Well, if it takes all night till the morning light, our time has gone. Don't you know, this pain that you feel inside, the rain has passed and the sun is shining. I know I took my head for a ride. 'Cause I'm tired of outdated morals, I'm just tired of outdated meanings. I just live for the things I believe in, and that gets me high. Look inside, just look inside, take a look inside. I'm just tired of outdated morals, I'm just tired of outdated meanings. I just live for the things I believe in, and that gets me high. I'm just tired of outdated morals, I'm just tired of outdated meanings. I just live for the things I believe in, and that gets me
Yeah, it's just like you say, it's sad how it's gone. And I think nowadays you've really got to push and make your own way to get your song out there, and really like do a lot on social media and get in touch with as many stations to be heard. You know what I mean? Because like years ago, I mean, a band used to get a record deal. You look back to like the 90s and Britpop and all that time. You heard stories of like bands getting 6 album deals, like Oasis, and you had Cast, Ocean Colour Scene, you know, Supergrass, Sea Horses, all them bands. They were great and was everywhere, and they've got this deal. And I think them days have drastically changed, how record deals get given out and stuff. So it's a funny one now. And the other thing is as well, like, people are making money off their live gigs rather than selling the records, which has changed a lot.
Everything has changed, and it's just, you know, I don't think at times for the better. And I think one of the things that has changed fundamentally is the fact that the the kids these days, they'll
Yeah.
go on a Spotify, they go on streaming, and they pretty much seem to want to have everything for nothing. Whereas in our day, we'd hear a band, we'd see it on Top of the Pops, we'd listen to it on the radio, we'd go to the record stores, we'd buy them, and then you're up and running, and you've got your record collection, and then you're going to school, and somebody else has got different records, and you've got the vinyl, and you're swapping it, and you're cross-pollinating, and you're having access to proper music, but it ain't happening these days for me.
I know, well, that's it, isn't it? Top of the Pops, it's funny you mentioned that. I was talking about Top of the Pops to Rick last week, saying it was great, like, because you sat there on a Sunday listening to the radio, going, who's number one this week? And then, obviously, Top of the Pops was on the following Thursday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you'd hear the countdown, and it was great, and you're thinking, it was almost like a football league table.
Yeah.
It was like top of the pile, and music was like that. It was just a great time for music when Top of the Pops was about. But now I wouldn't know who's number one on the charts. I wouldn't know who's been number one on the charts for the last 15 years.
I'll tell you something, I've not looked at it, I have no idea, but they probably sound like Pinky and Perky, and it's featuring something, and it's samples of something, and you know, if you look through any era, any generation, you go back, as you know, you alluded to in the 90s. I think the 90s was a great time for music. You go back to the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, whatever. You would have songs, proper songs that you could listen to that I would call. I know some of the kids would say, "Well, how's a proper songs?" Yeah, but it's like all this drum and bass and all this rubbish. It's just a row, and I can't, you know, it's not as though there's much in the way of technique or a thought pattern to write some of the lyrics, because a lot of them are bloody foreign as well, and I don't even know what they're talking about, but the kids are jumping up and down and hammered by it all. I'm thinking, I think I must have come from another planet, because I just can't work out what makes you lot tick.
Yeah, well, if you're only used to that, that's the thing, isn't it? You see, I mean, if you grew up in a good era of music, it always stays with you right throughout your life. I mean, I'm glad I was like a certain age when the 90s was around, because it was really rich with guitar bands. And I was speaking to one of my mates the other day about it, and he said, aren't you so glad that we were around at that era, and we can say that, and some of these bands are still going now, and you can get to see them, and you'll remember what a great time it was. And I just think it needs a bit of spirit back, you know, a little bit of soul, something magic again, to get people going out and watching live music a bit more, on the original scene. I think that's what's needed next.
I think it needs bottle from DJs like we used to in the old days. We used to have old John Peel, and he'd pretty much play anything. And I've heard many references to John Peel, and you know, we need a John Peel back. But the problem is, if you had a John Peel back and they played it on Radio 1 or Radio, half of the people wouldn't listen to it these days, and they wouldn't. And it is like when you have the live bands, you pay a £5 to watch 3, 4 or 5 live bands, and the bands are as much to blame, if I'm absolutely honest, because they'll go and do their gig, their 15, 20 minutes, and then they'll go and bugger off. And I think you're right, in the 90s there was a scene, and I think that, you know, you have to create a scene. And to be fair, respect to the grime artists. I mean, it's a genre of music I absolutely hate. I can't stand. I'd rather. Well, when I was doing all the Biscuit Boys and our radio shows, and now, why don't you come and record something with the grime industry and stuff? Look, I don't like it. It doesn't do nothing for me. I can only like the words in Outside My Window. I can only live for the things that I believe in, and if I don't believe in it, I just don't. It doesn't happen for me.
Yeah,
and it has to be an organic process. A little bit back to your songwriting, which is organic.
Yeah, it's like you say, everything you do or everything I do. I write songs pretty much when I could be like going to bed or walking around town, and the song will jump into my head, and I'll pick the guitar up after the song. So sort of like imagine the tune in my mind. Sing the words, and obviously you can record stuff on your phone, and I'll go home and pick the guitar up and play the riff to it, and play whatever that goes with it. You know what I mean? That's the easy part. I think the hard part of a song is getting a good hook line and some good verses, you know what I mean? Because obviously, if you know how to play a guitar, you'll play what's needed to be played on it, you know what I mean?
And it is that hook, that melody, the music that sucks people in before the lyrics, isn't it? It's almost like a girl, a partner, a wife, or a boyfriend, or whatever you are, male or female. These days, it don't matter, does it? We even have subgenres of humans as well these days, don't we? But people say, "Oh, I fell for him because his personality." No, you didn't. You fell for him because you liked the way that he looked or she looked, and then you developed the relationship, and largely through the personality. But look, if he looked like the Elephant Man, I'm telling you, I promise you, he could have the greatest personality. You wouldn't have had a date with him, 100%. So I think with music, it is the music first, and then when you get into the music, you look at the lyrics, and that's how you get into the artist, because you connect with the artist.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, if I write a song, mainly what I notice, there's a certain pattern of how I do it. I seem to get like the hook line first. And if I think the hook line sounds good, it's like as if the verses are easy for me to write. Because that main part of that song is the sweet spot. So as soon as I get like a good line or a good hook line, I think, oh, that's definitely going to work as a title. In my mind, I go, I've got a new song, because I know I can fill the rest of the bits in around it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And your new album, any date, any time frame when it's going to be finished? I know things are much different at the moment with the lockdown, because you can't get into the radio studio, you can't get the production. Although production these days is easier because you can email things and you can work on things, and you don't have to be in the same room. But ultimately, you do, don't you, to produce it, nail it.
We've been working between Leicester and Liverpool, sending files and stuff like that, which turned out great. But obviously, soon I'll be able to travel up and get in the studio a bit more. And finish it. But like anything, isn't it? Within this lockdown, and things have changed, so I'm more or less writing and getting the songs ready. Probably be next year at some point. I'd say early next year. Before it's all finished.
And as you rightly say, Jimmy, you've got the social media, which is great for artists. And more importantly, getting into groups, because I think that's how you grow. Whatever you're doing, whether it be a podcast or a song or an artist, get into with like-minded people, into groups that are sharing, because I think that we are waiting for the next generation. They are already there, but they just need to be heard, mate.
That's it, mate. And it's just, mate, and maybe doing interviews like this, and the word spreads, and if everyone else has the same attitude, it could eventually build to a new sort of revolution in music, you know what I mean? Where, guitar bands do get heard a bit more, and it does get out that way, and the scene does change, and that's what I'm hoping for.
When somebody says that word, I just feel like breaking into song. You say you want a revolution, and you're right, Jimmy. We do need a revolution, and no greater person to lead that revolution than King Jimmy of Liverpool.
King Jimmy of Liverpool.
That'll
be the title of the next song.
Well, you better go and start writing around that King Jimmy. And thanks for the credits as well, by the way, on the sleeve of Waterloo Key. Absolute banging album, my favourite debut album of all time. We're going to leave you now, Jimmy, to go back and you got to go home, ain't you?
Nice one, Gabbie. Thanks for all your support as well.
Absolutely. And Shoes My Rock and Roll World out now, kids, so get on it and download it and try and make this genial figure a few quid. He deserves it, richly deserves it. Cheers, pal.
Nice one. Cheers, Paul.
All the best, Jimmy.
Ciao, mate.
King Jimmy, that is. Ta-ra, pal.
She walked out on me. It was a game and love at first sight. It's never felt so right. And now I need this time to breathe. I'm gonna get her back today. And if it breaks my heart, I'll say whoa, whoa.